BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an gestural implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
Hi, everyone. I am Kelsey, and this is a very special bonus episode of A Trial by Podcast. So if you listened to our normal Tuesday episode this week, you heard me tell the story of the murder of Dr. Kendra Hatcher to my new BFF. I don't know if she knows we're BFFs, but I know that we're BFFs now. But my new BFF, Kristen from True Crime Creepers. So in today's bonus episode, you are going to hear Kristen tell me a story, and it is a doozy. So get ready, buckle up, and I really think you're going to appreciate this story and love the way that Kristen tells it.
Welcome to another episode of True Crime Creepers, where we talk about all the real-life creeps, from serial killers to con artists. I'm Kristen, the true crime fanatic who loves to tell these stories.
And I'm Kelsey, another true crime fanatic who also loves to tell these stories on A Trial by Podcast.
So Kelsey is from another true crime podcast, A Trial by Podcast, and she has agreed to come on the show today. I'm so excited to have her. I can't wait to tell you the story today.
I didn't just agree. I literally begged Kristen. I emailed her. I'm like, this is the first true crime collab podcast that I've done that's like on my true crime bucket list. I told Kristen I've been listening to her and Mogab for like 2 years. We started our own podcast, me and my friend Emily, 9 months ago. And I'm like, all right, we're finally getting to the point where I feel like maybe they would do a collab episode with us. So when she said yes, I was like, we did it. We made it. We made it.
And it was such perfect timing because I was like, I need a guest. I've been, lugging all my friends on, like sending out microphones to like all my friends, like, hey, and I'm running out of friends. So
I mean, that's hard work. You got to send the microphone out and everything. That's
yeah.
I'm here anytime you need me.
Excellent. Well, that might be perfect then. So, but Mogab should be back soon. I'm very excited. She's doing better. So we're hoping that she is going to be back soon. Hopefully before I have to take my summer break, because I'm going on a little trip with my dad this summer. So I'm going to have to take a little break.
Ooh, very exciting.
All right. I have a really good story for you today. I'm really excited to tell this one. Are you ready?
I am ready
for this one. Okay. So I read that in the UK, there's about one CCTV camera for every 11 people, which means there's around 7.5 million cameras in the UK. And these aren't like your gas station surveillance cameras that aren't working half the time or that only record like every few seconds. They are sophisticated systems designed to capture high quality, continuous footage day and night. They're all over city centers, town high streets, train and tube stations, bus stations, shopping centers, parking lots, garages, even residential neighborhoods. And on motorways and major roads, they have automatic number plate recognition cameras that can track vehicle movements. So I guess my point is, if you're going to commit a crime in the UK and your plan is to just like lie to police about where you were, maybe make sure there aren't any of those 7.5 million cameras around while you're doing it.
Probably a good idea.
Definitely. Yeah. Like, just understand that they're watching you. These cameras definitely came in handy on February 11th, 2022, when police were investigating a crash involving a single car that had hit a tree off the highway at such force that the car split in two. The engine detached itself from the rest of the car, and then the car burst into flames.
Oh my God.
When firefighters were able to put the fire out, they realized there were two bodies inside the car, both young men. Now, they quickly connected this crash with a disturbing 999 call, which is like 911 in the UK, that had come into Leicestershire police at 1:30 that morning. The caller was a young man named Saqib Hussain, who sounded absolutely panicked as he explained that he was driving with his friend, Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin, who went by Hashim, and they were being followed by two vehicles full of people wearing balaclavas. He tried to explain his location to the operator, but they were driving extremely fast, trying to get away from the other cars. You can hear Saqib tell Hashim to step on it, to go faster. He told the operator the other cars were crashing into them, trying to ram them off the road. He said, quote, "They're trying to kill me. I'm going to die. They're hitting the car. They're hitting the back of the car really fast. They're trying to ram us off the road. Please, I'm begging you."
Oh my God, that breaks my heart.
I know. His last words to the operator were, "Oh my God." And then there was screaming, a low bang, and the call disconnected. Police were certain that this was the caller and that this crash was not a tragic accident. The highway was deserted. There were no witnesses around to give them a description of the other cars involved, but it didn't matter. Because in a country blanketed by CCTV, it wouldn't take long for investigators to follow a digital trail. One that would lead them to a surprising suspect. 24-year-old TikToker Mahek Bukhari.
What? Sorry, you threw me with TikToker.
Content
It's
creator.
not where I thought you were going with. Yeah, sorry. That was disrespectful. Not TikToker, content creator, influencer.
Influencer. She wants to be. Mahek, who went by May, lived with her parents and brother in Stoke-on-Trent, a city in Staffordshire, about halfway between Birmingham and Manchester, and she was a content creator on TikTok. Most of her videos are her doing like whatever was trending on TikTok at the time. A lot of dances or lip syncs to different trending sounds. Nothing too out of the ordinary, just typical trending content. But she'd been doing it for several years and had managed to amass almost 130,000 followers on TikTok, 43,000 on Instagram, and almost 4,000 subscribers to her YouTube channel. So she's not like huge, but it's respectable.
She's doing better than I am, I'll tell you that.
Same. As May's TikTok stardom grew, brands and businesses had started reaching out to work with her to promote them. Fashion brands would send her clothes to promote on her platform, and restaurants and hookah lounges around England would invite her to events to promote them, oftentimes in exchange for like free food and drinks. It got to the point where May decided to drop out of school at Manchester University to pursue social media full time. And by 2022, she'd been doing it for several years. I think she started when she was like 19.
That's so crazy. That's what I anytime I see these young kids on TikTok that are like millionaires,
I know.
I want to be mad at them, but I can't because I'm like, I can't imagine if I was just a millionaire like 10 years ago. That would be amazing. I don't think I would be a good person at this point. Not saying they aren't. I don't think I would be a good person
I don't
if I was
either.
a millionaire at 19.
And I also wouldn't have any idea what to do with that money. It would give me such a, like, I spent my entire, like, 20 to, like, 35 just learning how to appreciate money and not just spend it the second that it came into my hand. And I think that if that had happened to me at a young age, like, it's not going to last. Like, they're not going to be, like, if they're not doing something with that money now, if they're just spending it, I feel bad for
like
them.
you have to invest it. You have to make it, you know, a long-term thing. So.
Right. And like, she's not there. You know, she has aspirations to get there, but she's like getting free food and drinks and some like PR packages and maybe $50 for a post here or there. You know, I mean, she's not like rolling in it right now.
Okay.
But I feel like she does kind of act like that's where she's at a lot of times. Like she kind of does have this, she seems to have this maybe inflated sense of self.
Yeah. Okay.
She seems the very like, do you know who I am type? Like, do you even know who I am type? Like,
yes.
she does kind of seem Seem like
those people. We love them.
Yes. Now, that's not how she portrays herself on social media. She has a very wholesome, like family-oriented, religious kind of vibe. Most of the videos are just her alone, but many of them also feature her mom, who was 44-year-old Ansreen Bukhari, who May often said was her best friend. She posted a video of them dancing with words on the screen that said, "Having an elite relationship with your mom." And the caption read, "So blessed to have her in my life. My mother, my best friend, and sister all in one."
Okay, so I'm sure everything she's saying there is true, right? They really love each other. Her mom's her best friend.
Honestly, yeah. I think they are. I think they are almost to a fault, almost to like a Gilmore Girls level of like friends before parents.
Like codependent a little bit?
Yeah, I would definitely, I would definitely say codependent. Most of the time when May would travel to London or Manchester or Birmingham for one of these brand trips, she would bring her mom along with her. Ansreen had always supported May's TikTok venture, and they'd often stay overnight in the cities and go out. They're partying it up with 20-somethings. And it wasn't a lifestyle Ansreen was very used to. Ansreen had been born in Pakistan, but she moved to the UK with her parents when she was a baby, and she'd always dreamed of having an exciting life. Growing up, she'd wanted to be a flight attendant, but when she was 16, she'd had to leave school to work as a seamstress, and at a young age, she found herself married with children. And 25 years later, she had a happy life with her husband and 2 kids who are now grown. I'm not exactly sure how old May's brother is. He was younger than her, I think. But I think he's at least like 17, 18, 19, like somewhere in there. Anyways, it certainly wasn't the exciting life that she'd dreamed of. She was working for the Department of Work and Pensions, helping people with debt management. And then she'd come home to the cooking and the cleaning. And with the monotony of it all, she was bored. She described her life as dutiful and fairly ordinary. But once May started blowing up on TikTok, she was going out more, she was meeting new people, she was partying with young people. It was exciting. It was like she was living 2 different lives.
I wish I was living 2 different lives right now.
I feel like I do live 2 different lives. I teach 5th grade all day, and then I come home and I record this podcast. And I just look at my kids, my students, and I'm like, y'all don't even know because they have no idea.
You don't know how cool Miss Kristen is. Exactly. You don't know that she's some small true crime podcaster's bucket list collab episode.
Exactly. If only they knew, they'd show me some respect. No, I'm just kidding. They're great. On one of these trips, Ansreen met a married dad in his 30s, and they struck up a friendship. They started meeting up at hookah lounges and talking every day on the phone. And it wasn't long before the relationship became sexual. And again, this is Ansreen, the mom, May's mom.
Okay, and he's married.
And he's married and she's married. They're both married.
Okay.
Neither of them were interested in divorcing their partners or pursuing any long-term relationship with each other. They were just having fun, looking for a little excitement. And the affair didn't last long, but after it ended, the two seemed to remain on friendly terms. But I feel like now Ansreen has crossed this line, and it's only a matter of time before she crosses it again. And that all began when her niece was over at her house sometime around 2019, 2020. The timeline here gets a little wibbly wobbly, very messy, but it was somewhere around there. And her niece was on this video chat app called Azar. Have you ever heard of this? I don't even know if we have it here.
No, I've never heard of it.
It lets you connect with random people around the world in video chats. It's kind of like Omegle, if you've heard of that.
Oh, yeah, I remember Omegle.
Yeah, but it's less like Wild Wild West, more polished, a little bit more structure to it. Like on Omegle, there's no like profiles or registration. You just like jump in anonymously to video chat a random person, which seems very unsafe. But on Azar, you can filter by things like gender and region. It's more like a social media where you have a profile with at least like basic information on it. There's some moderation.
Okay. That's good to hear because when I was 13 years old, we would go on Omegle and I saw things you cannot unsee.
Oh, I'm sure you did. And I would have done the same thing if it had been around. We were just in chat rooms like ASL, I'm 16. We're 24. We were 12. We definitely would have been in Omegle seeing things that you shouldn't see.
Yeah.
Anyway, the niece is chatting on the app with some guy, and she's talking about her cousin May and how she's famous on TikTok. And her niece pointed the phone at Ansreen, and she was like, oh, and that's her mom. And the guy said hi, and Ansreen gave a little wave back, and that was it. She never expected to see this random guy again. But a couple of days later, she got a message on Instagram from this guy that said, do you remember me? And Ansreen showed the message to May, and they looked at the guy's profile, and May's like, oh, that's that guy that they were chatting with on Azar. Ansreen didn't know how he found her on Instagram. She would later find out that he looked up May's TikTok, which led to her Instagram, and then he searched through her followers until he found Ansreen.
So he's the FBI friend. Got it.
Yeah, he's doing the social media stalking. But Ansreen didn't know all that or why he was messaging her. She figured he wanted to ask her something or something like that. So she messaged him back, and they just started chatting. The guy told her that he was 27 and that his name was Saqib Hussain. And though their age gap was pretty large, Ansreen was at least 42 or 43 or so at that time. I'm not exactly sure because, again, the timeline, wibbly wobbly. Mm-hmm. But there was definitely a large age gap between the two. But it would turn out to be even worse than that because Saqib was not 27. He was lying. He was 18 years old when they first started talking. His age ends in teen.
Oh, I don't like that.
Ansreen claims she had no idea that he was literally a teenager, but who knows? In 2020, when lockdown hit, they started chatting more and more, and he'd send her messages randomly, just like, hey, how's your day going? And she was flattered that he seemed so interested in her. At the time, she was just enjoying the attention. Saqib was a good-looking guy, but she didn't expect anything to come of it. At least that's what she says. And I do think it's important to note in all of this, all these details of how she's feeling about Saqib throughout this whole story, like, it's all based on what she says later. And
we have one side of the story.
Yeah. And like, they all just tend to like put her in the best possible light.
Of course. Yes. Got it.
A couple of months into chatting, Ansreen told him that she was in London and he said that he could come visit her. And so they agreed to meet up in the parking lot of a supermarket. And this is the very first time they met up in person. And I'm not entirely sure like what they did in this parking lot or what happened. But then in August of 2020, Saqib told her that it was his birthday and he begged her to meet up with him. And Ansreen told him that it was hard for her. She has a family, like she can't just leave. But he was persistent, begging her to come to Birmingham and meet up with him for his birthday. So Ansreen gave in and she agreed to meet. And she told her family that she was going out of town with a friend. And Saqib booked a room at a travel lodge in Birmingham, about an hour away from Stoke-on-Trent, which is where Ansreen lives. She said Saqib got the hotel because he was hoping his friends would come out later for his birthday and stay with him. Like she wasn't planning on staying there. She makes it seem like she was planning on just going to see him for a bit and then come back. But I'm so confused on why she would have told her family that she's going out of town, unless that doesn't mean the same thing living there as it does here. Like, since out of town for them is like an hour and out of town for me is like 4 hours. So if I'm going out of town, I'm not coming back till the next day minimum.
Yeah, it's sounding like a lie to me for sure. But I also think that maybe it might just be like a dialect sort of thing, like saying, oh, I'm going to go out of town for the day. Like that could just be going for the day or for a few hours and coming back. But I don't know. It's sounding like a lie to me.
I was kind of wondering about that. And it's sounding like a lie to me too. But anyway, Saqib lived in Banbury, which is on the other side of Birmingham from Stoke. And since he didn't have his license, he had his sister Sana drive him out there and drop him off with Ansreen. So I guess his sister's doing him like a birthday favor. Like, yeah, I'll go drive you to meet up with your friends like an hour away from here.
I'll drive you to the motel to meet your cougar. Like, that's
what's happening.
That is a good sibling.
Yeah, and I don't know how much she knew about that, but that's exactly what she did. So Saqib and Ansreen went and got dinner together at a restaurant, and then imagine that, they end up at that hotel room.
Huh, this isn't where I parked my car. How did that happen?
How did we get here? She said she thought they were just going to talk. She didn't think anything was going to happen at that hotel room.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is giving like when in a romance novel, when it's like two friends get a hotel room
and there's only one bed. That's exactly what it is. And so, yeah, things did happen and they did end up having sex. And so afterwards, they like took some photos together. Nothing spicy, like they were fully clothed, I'm pretty sure. Just some like very coupley looking photos, like his arm is around her, that kind of thing. And they hung out in the room for a couple of hours and then Ansreen got ready to leave. And I guess Saqib realized his friends weren't coming out to Birmingham. I mean, there's a lot of like Meek trying to fill in the details here. But now he's stranded in Birmingham. His friends aren't coming and Serena is leaving. So he begs her to drive him home to Banbury. And she said she was really annoyed by this because Banbury is an entire hour in the opposite direction from where she lives, from Birmingham. It's like she has to go south, an hour south to Banbury, when Stoke is an hour north.
Here's the thing is, in the UK, don't they have good public transportation? Like, isn't there a train or something
that could take him to Banbury? I don't know, because like I've only really been to London, and like I've been outside of London where there's like the smaller, like to Bath. Like I went out to Bath and then I got lost on the train. But there were trains that would take you kind of all over.
Yeah, I guess like I've been over there a couple times and I just picture trains everywhere. But again, I'm in touristy spots, so maybe it's not the case. But I will tell you, this would piss me off.
I would 2 hours. She has to drive 2 hours. But yeah, I'm not going to leave him stranded.
I can't say no, so I would do it, but I would be so mad the whole time.
Oh, I would never speak to him again.
Oh, yeah.
I would never speak to him again, but that's not what happens. But
oh, God.
I would absolutely not. Yeah. So, yeah, it added like 2 hours to her trip. Saqib took a photo of them in the car on the way to dropping him off, and neither of them really looked particularly happy in the picture. I'm not really sure why he was taking it, but she was not happy. Later, she said she felt ashamed and embarrassed that they'd hooked up, and she really didn't want this affair to carry on. But Ansreen really does seem to contradict herself a lot, because she also said that after this first time, she was addicted to this relationship. So I'm like, girl, which is it? Which is it?
And she still, quote unquote, doesn't know that he's a teenager?
No idea. I think she doesn't ever find out that he's a teenager until he dies.
Okay.
So she does this a lot. She consistently downplays the extent of their relationship. She spins anything and everything to make her seem less culpable. So she's definitely not the most reliable narrator here. So it's hard to say what she knew. But they would meet up at hookah lounges and restaurants. Occasionally, they would meet up in London. They would video chat. They didn't meet up that much, though. I think they only met up over the course of several years, like 5 or 6 times. But they would video chat a lot, like constantly on the video chat. And some of these did get a little spicy. But they didn't actually have sex again for several months, not until early 2021 when they met up at a Premier Inn in London. And now, meanwhile, no one in her family has any idea about any of this. Like, May knew that her mom was talking to Saqib, that they were friends, but she had no idea that Ansarine was carrying on this whole affair. Not even when Saqib approached May on Instagram, posing as a banking company that wanted her to promote them on her Instagram in exchange for £30 a post. And she agreed. She had no idea that she was talking to Saqib, she says. She thought it was a company. And she started like posting, promoting this bank. And he paid her like £500 for this. And I wish I knew more about this because I feel like, I don't know if he worked for a bank. He's like 20 years old at this point. So I can't imagine he has any sort of real professional job, but he could. But
so we don't really know we're assuming this is probably not a real bank, not a real company, but he did actually pay her money.
He did actually pay her £500.
Okay. I wonder, maybe the mom told him to do it? Like, oh, she needs money and...
No, I don't think he knew. I think he was like trying to maybe get in with this family and like kind of worm his way in there. That's the only thing I can think of why he would do that is he's trying to build some rapport with May and he's kind of starting it off like this.
Okay. That's an interesting way to build rapport.
I agree, especially since, I mean, according to her, she didn't even know that it was him. That is and she's very much like her mom. Not super reliable, can't always believe everything she says. But
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So she's getting paid $500 by the guy who her mom is having an affair with, who's cheating on her dad with him.
Oof.
Right under her nose. Now, not long after Ansarine and Saqib met up in Birmingham, May was invited by the Scion Lounge in London to come out and promote them in exchange for free food and drinks and hookah. And as usual, she brought her mom along and they made the trip out to London. And 2 of May's cousins lived there. And the plan was for them to all go out and then stay at the cousin's place overnight. Like, that's what they were going to do. And just a side note, I feel like Ansarine started going with May as like a protective thing because she's like, I don't want you out late. Like, they're very like kind of conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think instead of her protecting May, I think she kind of got swept up in this whole
the glamour
of it all.
Okay.
Yeah. And just like having fun and not like what she called her dutiful ordinary life. Anyways, when they go out to this Scion Lounge in London, at the lounge, Saqib shows up. And May didn't recognize him as her mom's quote-unquote friend. He was with a group of guys, and he just walked up to their table, and he started, according to May, he started just being really weird. Like, he was asking personal questions. He was acting really pushy. She said, clearly he knew who I was from Instagram. And she got the impression that he was hitting on her. And said that she found him very annoying, like he just wouldn't leave her alone. She had no idea that it was her mom that he was really there for.
At least she didn't like him. That would have been worse if she's like, oh, he's hitting on me. Like,
oh my
now
God.
I have a crush on him.
I wonder if that's really what was happening here, though, because she is so like, she's just like Ansarine. Like, she'll spin every situation. Like, she would never say, if she's telling this story about this event, she would never say like, I thought he was so cute and I really liked it because he is a good looking guy, like conventionally attractive. Like,
okay.
I wonder if
and now just in hindsight, she's kind of spinning. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. This is starting to make me a little uncomfortable, this situation we've got going here.
Yeah. It's pretty uncomfy, honestly. Eventually, one of her cousins stepped in and told him that it was a family night and asked him to leave. And then, and this part is confusing. May said she was really annoyed when Saqib paid their bill, which was something like $200. She hadn't asked him to. She thought it was strange. This is what she said. But I'm like, wasn't this supposed to be a brand deal? And your food and drinks are supposed to be covered? Maybe this was like a different night. Maybe this was not that event. Why'd you have a bill at all? But I don't know. Either way, it rubbed May the wrong way. Yeah. May brought it up to her mom afterwards and said it was weird. And Ansarine just said, oh, yeah, I know him. We're just friends. And May was like, what? Like she hadn't known that.
She's like, how do you know this literal teenager, Mom?
This child. Yeah. Another time in May of 2021, Ansarine told May about this 2-day party at a bungalow in Banbury, which if you recall is where Saqib lives. And she begged May to come with her. And May didn't really want to go, but Ansarine was just like, oh, come on, it'll be so fun. Like, she's obviously not saying anything about Saqib, who happened to be at this party. And so May finally, she agreed to go. And witnesses saw Ansarine and Saqib hugging, kissing, holding hands at this party. And I'm sure this stood out to people because by this time, Ansarine is 45, 46. Saqib is 20 years old, maybe 21. I'm not sure when his birthday is, but that would probably stand out to people. And
people are like, wow, this kid really likes his mother.
Yes. And there's a video from this party showing them together. And the witness said they also saw them go into a bedroom together.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, how did May miss all of this? She's at this same party. And why would Ansarine want May to go?
And answering, haven't you learned what social media does? If someone posts a video with you guys in the background or something like that.
She definitely does not know how to be careful with the digital footprint. I will absolutely tell you that.
Oh, God.
But Saqib started acting more and more obsessed with Ansarine. I think Ansarine is looking at Saqib like a fun time, but not she's nowhere, not in any headspace of this is ever going to get in the way of my family. I would you're an extra thing on the side that's fun, but nothing that I would leave my husband for. And Saqib is I'm in love with you and we're going to be together. We're end game. We're
that makes me so sad because I feel even though he's technically an adult because he's 18, right? 18 or 19 maybe now.
Yeah, and but it started at 18. He's 20. This has been 3 years. It has been years.
It still feels like a sort of grooming situation. If he's falling in love and she's 20 years older, I understand 18 is technically an adult, but I think back to my mindset when I was 18.
Well, your frontal lobe is not even nowhere near done cooking.
Yeah, and I just feel an adult that's 20 years older than you or almost 20 years older than you.
No, I think she's 24 years older, 20-something years older than him.
Yeah, I mean just the mental and emotional control that person has over you, even if they don't do it on purpose or purposefully in a negative way, they have that over you. And
I agree.
I feel for him.
And I do think that Ansarine, to an extent, is a little naive, even for a 45-year-old, because of the way she was sheltered growing up. She was immediately married off, and then she just didn't really she had really no life experiences up until that point. Not a lot. I mean, they did move to different countries and lived in different countries and such, but
not a lot of romantic experiences.
No,
sounds
zero. And so I don't think she is a predator, but I do think that there is a form of grooming here. I mean, she is definitely 45 years old. She's raised kids. She's at least she has way more life experience than he does now. And so I'm not saying I think she's so naive and had no idea what she was doing. I definitely think she's the adult in this situation and she should have put a stop to it.
Right.
Way long
but maybe
ago.
She was ignorant of the possible ramifications of this sort of thing, it sounds like.
I think that's possible, that she didn't realize maybe how fast he was falling, and she just enjoyed having this young, attractive guy's attention.
Yeah, I get it. We all love attention.
Yeah, especially when, and I don't know, I don't have any information about her and her husband's relationship. It seems like May really loved him a lot, close to him and the family seemed close, but that's, you portray your family one way on social media. Like, who knows what it's really like? I don't even know the guy's name. I don't know anything about him. So I don't really know if he was giving her any attention, and maybe she's seeking that. I'm not making excuses for her, but.
No, I get what you're saying, though.
And I think these are complex situations, but for sure, anytime she could, she made the wrong decision. Like every chance she got, she was just making the wrong choice. And yeah, Saqib is getting, like, he's in love with her. I think he kind of feels her pulling away a bit. And that just makes him, like, even more obsessed. He's contacting her 10 or 11 times every day. He's telling her he loves her. He's buying her new clothes and perfume. He even buys her an Apple Watch. And he'd have the packages sent to her house. And she's like, oh my God, knock it off. Like, she'd have to lie to her husband on more than one occasion about where these packages were coming from, saying that, oh yeah, I ordered that, and she's starting to get really worried about her secret getting out.
Oh God.
He'd even send her Uber Eats to the house. And several times she'd just send the driver back saying that she hadn't ordered anything. And she said that whenever she did that or told him that she didn't want him buying her things or said anything to the effect that she did not want this to continue, he would get really angry. She said there was a different side of him, one that would get really aggressive when he was angry. And by December of 2021, Ansarine was over this affair. It had been about 2 years, maybe close to 3 years, and she wanted it to end. So she met up with him at a hotel in London and told him, like, straight up, I don't want this relationship to continue. But she said it seemed like Saqib didn't care about what she had to say. He wasn't listening to her at all, and his behavior continued. But that was the last time she ever met up with him in person, was December of 2021. And when he realized that she was serious about ending things, that's when the threats began. He told her that he had those photos of them together and that, unbeknownst to her, she says, he'd been recording those spicy video chats. And that he was going to send the photos and the videos to her husband, to her cousins, to her son.
No, you can't. No revenge porn. Oh, my God.
I know. And so she tried to just ignore him. She blocked his number so he couldn't call her anymore, but he would just go the extra mile to get her attention. When May would go live on TikTok, he'd start going into her lives and commenting from a fake account saying, tell your mom to call me.
Oh, God.
And at some point, I'm not sure when, but at some point, Saqib did tell May about their affair, but she didn't believe him. She thought he was making it up.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. Introducing the all-new, all-terrain Honda Passport Trail Sport, the most off-road capable Honda Passport Honda has ever dreamt up. The Passport features increased ground clearance, roof rails on all trims, and available specially developed all-terrain tires. And you'll stay comfortable with tri-zone climate control and available features like heated and ventilated front seats and a panoramic moonroof. Learn more at honda.com/passport.
Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
So later she asked her mom about it and Ansarine denied it. And so May figured that was that. This guy's crazy, whatever. But then Saqib told her that he had sexual images of her mom. And that's when Ansarine finally came clean. And May was really angry at her mom. She felt that if Ansarine's affair got out, that it could blow up her burgeoning social media career. Like, she'd built her platform on this more wholesome, family-oriented image. Her mom was her best friend. They had an elite relationship. The videos where her mom was featured tended to get like hundreds of thousands of views, way more than the ones that she got when it was just her by herself. So if her followers found out that her mom was having an affair, that could ruin everything.
Oh my God. And I see this stuff. I'm on TikTok, so I see this stuff blow up. And she's absolutely right. This is something that it's like all of TikTok would be making videos about this, and it just feels like it lives on forever.
Yes. Yes, people love to latch on to anything that can make them feel a little superior. Like,
absolutely,
this person did this thing wrong and let's talk about it. Like, and how I would never, we love to be judgy over there. And so they both kind of have stakes in the game at this point. Like, Ansreen is terrified that her secret's going to get out and that he's going to blow up her entire family. And May is worried that this is going to destroy her reputation online. So Ansreen confides in May about all these threats that Saqib had been sending her, and May told her to block him. And Ansreen would, but then she'd unblock him. And that would make May frustrated and angry. I feel like she's like blocking him, and then he's sending her something somewhere else. So she unblocks him so she can say, like, give him a piece of her mind or whatever. And then block, and May's just like, stop it. Like, stop responding. May told her that if he was threatening her, let me rephrase. May claims that she told her that if he was threatening her, she needed to go to the police or she needed to tell her dad about everything that had happened.
Honestly, good advice.
Very good advice.
For the daughter to be giving the mother, like, that is good advice.
Which is why I don't believe that it happened, honestly.
Okay.
I'm like, when you see how this situation ended, it's kind of crazy how May like always says the right thing, but then her actions like lead to the murder of two people.
Oh God. See, this is a good story already, and I hate to use the word good because obviously this ends so tragically, but I cannot tell who's the villain in this story, and I'm normally really good at predicting those things.
I think it's because we are dealing with a lot of very complicated people. And it's like one of those stories where it's not black and white. It's like, I mean, I definitely think that yeah.
You don't have to.
I think it is.
I'm going to get there.
I'm going to block it back. I think it's pretty black and white, actually. But let's get there. But Ansreen wasn't about to go to her husband and tell him what was going on. And she was worried that if she went to the police, they'd show up at the house and he'd find out anyway. I believe that every decision that she made from here on out was made with the only goal of making Saqib go away while making sure her husband was none the wiser. I think that's the only thing she cared about at this point. And May decided that Saqib needed to be silenced. On January 4th, 2022, she sent a WhatsApp message to Ansreen saying, "I'll soon get him jumped by guys and he won't even know what day it is."
I don't like that.
And then because later she's like, I didn't mean that. But then she like literally took steps to make it happen. So she reached out to a friend of hers named Rakan Karwan, and she told him that she was having problems with this guy. Now, she lied to Rakan. She didn't say anything about Ansreen. She claimed that Saqib had made deep fake images of her, taking her face and photoshopping it on naked bodies, and he was spreading these images all over the internet. And she said she was incredibly disturbed by this, and she needed Rakan's help to get him to stop. And so Rakan was in. He's like one of her best friends. He completely believes her lies. And so he says he'll help her. So Rakan reached out to Saqib, and Saqib said he'd make a deal. He would leave Ansreen alone. He'd delete all the images and videos of her and let her keep her secrets if she agreed to pay him back for all the money that he'd spent on her, which he claimed was about 3,000 pounds. And that included the 500 pounds that he'd paid May for under the pretense of being a banking company.
Oh, God.
And it seems like this little act of extortion gave May exactly what she needed, a way to get to Saqib. So they set up a meeting with him at a neutral location. It was in Leicester, about an hour away from both Stoke and Banbury. But it wasn't as neutral as May and Ansarine made it seem, because Rakan lived in Leicester. So they're really asking him to meet where he lives. But Saqib didn't know anybody else was going to be there. They agreed to meet at 1:30 in the morning on the night of February 10th, so like early morning of February 11th, in the parking lot of a Tesco, which is a giant supermarket chain in the UK.
Guys, I'm not blaming anybody for obviously something horrible is going to happen, but kids listening at home, nothing good happens in a parking lot at 1:30 in the morning. Literally nothing.
No. And I'm like, even if you are like you want to be, it should be crowded. You want so many people around that nobody's paying attention to you. Yeah, but also absolutely. Don't blackmail people for money in exchange for naked photos of them.
That's true. That's also a good life lesson that we can learn from this.
Don't do that. There are so many things that you should just not do in this. And the agreement was that May and Ansarine would pay him his money and then watch him delete the photos and videos off his phone. But I don't think May and Ansarine ever had any intention of paying him anything. Because for one thing, they didn't bring any money with them to this meeting. No, it seems like their plan all along, and those text messages that she sent support this, that their plan was to jump him so they could steal his phone and delete the photos themselves.
And Ansarine is going along with this at this point.
Yep. Oh, she's there for every step of this plan. But they were going to need more than just Rakan with them for that to happen. And I'm going to apologize in advance here because I'm about to throw a whole lot of people at you. There were 8 people who ended up involved in this mess, not counting Saqib. 8 people with May and Ansarine and Rakan. So we've already got May, Ansarine, and Rakan. May also reached out to a guy named Rais Jamal, who was a close friend of Rakan's, and told him that they needed help, like getting some photos off of Saqib's phone. They'd set up this meeting with him and she needed his support. And so she told him that Saqib was going to show up with a bunch of guys and she was scared. Like that's what Ray says that she told him. So he agreed to the plan. Okay, then on the night of February 10th, Rais gets a text from his friend Sanaf, who invites him to play Monopoly at the Tubo Shisha Lounge. So Rais picks up Sanaf, who brought his own Monopoly board with him, and they headed to the lounge to play Monopoly. And they were later joined by Rais's cousin Amir and their friend Natasha. And Natasha had this big crush on Rais. She had even said she hoped to marry him after finishing her degree. And according to her, the only reason she came that night was to spend more time with him. He's like, I wasn't that interested in her. And I'm like, that's...
Oh my God, this breaks my heart.
Yeah. So at this point, we have 5 people hanging out at the lounge. We've got Rais, Sanaf, Amir, Natasha, and then Rakan drops by for a bit later. So Rakan is the first one that May called. And then she called Rais. And then we have his cousins, Amir, the girl who's got a crush on him, Natasha, and this guy, Sanaf, who brought Monopoly to play at the lounge.
Oh my God.
Then after spending...
Stay at the lounge and play Monopoly, please.
I know. And so later the prosecution would say that this is where they are like nailing down the details of this plan. Whereas like Sanaf, Amir, and Natasha are like, no, like nobody, we were playing Monopoly. Like that's all we were doing. We were playing Monopoly. Nobody was talking about any plans to jump anybody or hurt anybody or anything. Is what they say. But so it's really hard to know like who in this group really knew what was about to happen. After spending some time at the lounge playing Monopoly, the group left and met up with May and Ansarine at Rakan's house in Leicester. And then while they were there, Rais called his friend Mohammed and invited him to come join. So now we've got all 8 people, May and Ansarine, and then Rais and Rakan. And then basically the others, like Mohammed, Sanaf, Amir, and Natasha, who are like the other ones.
Okay.
Now, at this stage, it really becomes unclear who among the group knew what was actually going on. Like, we do know that Rais, Rakan, May, and Ansarine were fully aware of the plan. Like, I think that is clear. As for the other 4, they all claimed they had no idea and they were simply going along with their friends. Amir said he's just hanging out with his cousin, Reis. Like, he just came to see his cousin. Natasha's like, I just had a big crush on Reis, and that's why I was there. Sanaf said that he had just smoked way too much weed at the lounge, and he couldn't go home smelling like that because his parents would know. So he's just like tagging along until that wears off. And then Mohammed said he had no clue what was going on. They called him at 12:30, like an hour before the meeting was supposed to be. He was already in his pajamas. And he just decided to join the group anyway to like hang out. He's just hanging out.
So far, and I might change my opinion, but so far I believe them. These ones that say they didn't know the plan, right now I believe them. You might give me more information to change my mind, but
I kind of do too, honestly. Like I kind of do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And
Good to know.
I think the thing is that we don't have any evidence that they did know more, except they were there, and that sucks for them. Like it sucks for them that they were there and got dragged into this, but I do think that's probably what happened. So from Rakan's house, they left to go meet at the Tesco, and the group split up into 2 cars. So Rakan is driving May's Audi TT with May, Ansreen, and Mohammed as passengers. So it's those 4 in the Audi. And then drove Natasha's blue Seat Leon sedan with Amar, Sanaf, and Natasha. So we've got May and Ansreen and Mohammed in the Audi with Rakan driving. And then we've got all the others in the Seat with Reis driving.
Okay.
The meeting at Tesco was caught on CCTV. And this is one of those CCTV that's got the panning. It's panning back and forth. You know, you're seeing everything.
Okay.
Initially, both the Audi and the Seat pull up right next to each other in the parking lot. But then it seems like they decided they should park further apart so they're not. So like when Saqib arrives, he doesn't see that they're together. To make things look even more casual, Rakan and Mohammed actually got out of the Audi. So only May and Ansreen are in the Audi. So to me, that looks like an ambush. That looks like you are waiting to ambush him. You're hiding.
Right. Now I'm thinking that maybe more of them knew once they got there what was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly didn't do anything about it when they were there.
Right.
So
I'm sure this goes further than they even planned on it, the people who were planning this.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Okay.
I think some things might have gotten away from them, but some bad choices were made for sure.
Yeah.
So Saqib finally pulls up, but he's not alone. He's with his friend. He's with his friend Hashim Ijazuddin, who had agreed to give him a ride to this Tesco in his Skoda Fabia. This is a small hatchback car. It's like relatively common around the world. It's just not sold in the US or Canada, so I'd never heard of it. And it doesn't seem like Hashim had any idea why Saqib needed this ride in the middle of the night to this Tesco. But Hashim was one of those people who would do anything to help someone out. His uncle said that Hashim's life motto was, if I can make them laugh or smile, my job is done for the day. Like he had that quote all over his social media.
That breaks my heart.
I know. He was just a really compassionate person. He and Saqib hadn't even been close until a few months before. And Hashim had told a friend, like his friend was like, why are you suddenly so close with Saqib? And Hashim said, because he could tell that he was sad and he'd been going through some difficulties. And he said he just wanted to be helpful and look after his friend. And that would get him killed.
Oh my God. And he was young too, right?
21. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes you think like what kind of life he would have lived and all of the things he would have done and how many people he would have helped and, you know, helped them through rough times, just like friends and family and it
that now don't
heart.
have that support system there. Yeah.
Right.
That's so true. It's such a loss. So the CCTV footage shows the Skoda pulling up to the meeting spot, but something clearly spooked them because Saqib doesn't even get out of the car before they pull out of the parking lot. Now, based on Saqib's 999 call, if you remember from the very beginning of the episode, he told that operator that the people following him were all wearing balaclavas, or he said they were wearing balaclavas. He didn't say they all, but there were some of them that were wearing balaclavas, which are like full-on ski masks. Like they hide your entire face and head. So I'm thinking, putting those two things together, I'm thinking they pull up, they see May and Ansarine in the car, but maybe they see the other car, and maybe they see those people that are now wearing balaclavas, and we'd have no idea who was wearing them, which ones were wearing them. If they were all wearing them, I think that's pretty telling on what Amir and Sanaf and Natasha and Mohammed knew, if they've got balaclavas on their face. But even if you're seeing the others with them on, and you're still getting in the car and going out, you know, I don't know.
And you're not questioning, like, what is about to happen? Why are you guys putting these on?
Yeah. And I didn't really say this. They all range in age from probably about 22 to 27, this group. Like Reis and Rakan, I think, are the oldest at like around 27-ish. I'm almost positive Rakan's 27. I can't totally remember if that's how old Reis was, but they're, you know, old enough to know better.
Absolutely.
And so Hashim takes off with Saqib. They're driving off. They're out of the Tesco parking lot. And the others could have left it there. They could have come up with a new plan to get the phone back. They could have let it go. They could have gone to the police to made a different choice. You know, they could have. But some of them, all of them, who really knows, decided to pursue him. The blue sedan, the Seat, pulled out first with Reis driving, but the Audi was right behind them with Rakan driving. Mohammed, who was in the Audi, later said that May made a phone call and said, "Watch what I do to you." And it was later shown that she had called Saqib from the car, like during that time. Watch
you
what
guys
I
can't
do to
see
you.
me, but my jaw's on the floor right now. You're joking.
No, that's what Mohammed said.
Oh my God. I was expecting, this was some sort of accident. You know, they were chasing after him, trying not to lose him. But that's horrific.
No, and I think the way that they were driving, like, you're either intending to kill someone or you don't care if they die or not.
Right.
And at a certain point, it's like, do you even care if you die? Like, this is so dangerous.
5 immersive worlds, 1 amazing theme park. Get ready to explore the all-new Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, and Dark Universe. Epic Universe opens May 22nd at Universal Orlando Resort. Our universe will never be the same. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
At Sephora, we've got what you want because you're obsessed with your skin and we're obsessed with what it needs. Sephora has the best products to help you get beautiful, glowing, radiant skin. With an extensive, inclusive range of results-driven formulas and in-store beauty advisors to help you find exactly which are right for you, the best skincare is only at Sephora. Sephora, for all your skincare.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss. Oof, like winding your hair carefree. Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree. Yes! Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree? He's on a roll now. Spit toothpaste on the faucet. You got it. You got it. Peanut butter on the light switch. Oh, spritz, spritz. Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good. Okay, we're back. Use as directed.
So they chase Hashim and Saqib down the A46, which is a divided highway. They call it a dual carriageway, which I'm kind of obsessed with.
Love it.
But we would call it a divided highway with like 2 lanes going in each direction. All of them are going way too fast. I'm 38 years old. I'm like, slow down. You're going so fast. They're going 100 miles an hour at one point, like 80 to 100, chasing each other, driving very dangerously. The CCTV footage of the cars really does paint the picture that the Audi and Seat are chasing the Skoda and trying to run him off the road. And Saqib's phone had died. Like, he had told the operator, because she's like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "I can't look it up. My phone's dead." And she's like, I'm on the phone with you. And he's like, no, this is my friend's phone. My phone's dead, so I can't like look at the map, is I guess what he was trying to say. But I wonder if he'd done that on purpose. Like if he knew they were going to try to get him, like get his phone to delete the images and he like let the phone die. I don't know. But then she's also calling him. So I don't know when the phone died. But his phone was dead, so he used Hashim's to make that 999 call, telling the operator that he was being followed, that someone wearing balaclavas was trying to run him off the road, saying they were going to kill him, that he was going to die. Now, there's no audio of this call. It's never been released, but the transcript was. And when I was reading it, I can just imagine that he must sound absolutely panicked. And it was while the operator keeps telling him he has to calm down, you know, but that's so hard when you're in that headspace. And it was while
I'm so sorry I'm interrupting, but my heart breaks. Imagine if those were your children in that car who died in that car and you have to read that transcript. I hope they didn't ever hear the call.
Well, that's why the police said that they weren't going to release the audio, was out of respect for their families.
Good. Yeah. That was the right decision. But oh my God, my heart breaks for that family. I cannot imagine just knowing that your child was in just purely terrified.
At the moment they died. Like they died at a moment of pure terror. Yeah.
That breaks my heart.
I know. And it was while he was on this call that he and Hashim were run off the road and crashed their car into a tree at such force that the car split in two and burst into flames. And later, a forensic collision investigator determined that they must have been going between 81 and 90 miles an hour when they crashed. So they're like trying their hardest to get away from these people. Both Saqib, and I am thankful for this, that both Saqib and Mohammed had died on impact, so they were already dead before the fire started.
Okay, that's somewhat of a relief to hear.
Yeah. The Audi and Seat continued driving down the A46, eventually turning around to drive back to Leicester, passing the burning wreck of the Skoda Fabia. Every single person in the Audi and the Seat have different stories about the reaction to the wreck. Natasha claimed that she thought the whole time they're just racing the Skoda. But I'm like, they're in balaclavas. What do you mean they're just racing? But she said that when they passed the wreck on the other way, she's like, oh, I just thought they were racing. And then we like lost that car. I don't know what happened. And so when we drove by that wreck, Race was like, oh, that's got nothing to do with us. That's, you know, that's not the same car basically. And so she's like, okay. And she disbelieved him. That's what she says. Amir said everyone in the Seat was just going mad. May said everyone in the Audi was going crazy, saying, have you seen that car? It's all in flames. But Ansarine said that after they passed the crash site, it was just silence in the car. None of them stopped to help. None of them called for emergency services after the crash. It was actually maybe an hour later or like 30 minutes later that somebody else passed by the crash and reported. I think a couple people called in because it was on fire. But this isn't a busy
30
road.
minutes?
Yeah. It's not like
God.
So it's like a highway. There's no lights or anything, but it's not like a interstate. You know, it's not a super busy area.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Especially at 1:30 in the morning. So they drove a bit further before both pulled over and both cars swapped drivers. And May took over driving her Audi and Natasha got back in the driver's seat of her car. And Ray said that this little driver swap situation happened because he didn't even have a driver's license. So he's doing all of this. He was kind of taking the lead, I feel like, from like the Audi was always behind the Seat whenever I saw the like CCTV footage, which there's not a lot. It's not like I only saw 2 clips. I think they have a lot more than that, but not that I saw. But I think that it was always the Seat that was like in front and the Audi's behind. So Reyes doesn't even have a driver's license and he's doing all this.
Oh my God. And is May's mom with her this whole time?
Yes, she's in the Audi.
Oh my, okay.
Yes.
I understand maybe her intentions with this kid weren't bad and then he was threatening her, which he shouldn't have done. But at this point, and actually all of these people are adults because you said some of them are 22 to 27.
The drivers, I think, are both like 27.
All right. I'm not feeling bad for them anymore, even if they didn't know the plan or this wasn't the plan. Like, you're an adult, you know that these people are no longer alive. Like, you called 999. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think the fact that none of them bothered to get them any sort of help. And I get maybe they were scared, but it's like
But if this wasn't your plan, do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know? That's
you're not going to get away with it. I mean,
that's what makes me kind of think that maybe it wasn't the plan to kill them, but they were like what you said before, they were okay with risking their lives trying to wreck this car.
I think that's absolutely accurate. I think in every scenario, because I think their plan was to jump him in the parking lot of the Tesco. I don't think they planned to leave a body behind. I think they planned to do what needed to be done to get that phone from him. And I think he could have ended up dead in the parking lot, and they would have walked away from that too.
Absolutely.
Even if that wasn't like their plan. And so I think that just like the disregard for human life to protect your little affair, like it always
just tell your husband.
And it always makes me so mad. It's so frustrating when people murder somebody to cover up a secret like this, like something that's not illegal. You're not going to go to jail for it. You just don't want people to find out because it's going to like whatever ruin your reputation. Well, now your reputation has been dragged through the mud because not only do they know about the affair, but they know about every little detail about it because it's all in the trial. And on top of that, you're in prison.
And everything that you did trying to cover up that secret is way worse than the secret itself.
And now he's dead. They're both dead. And your secret is out anyway.
And what was it? His friend was Hashim?
Yeah.
Who had nothing to do with any of this.
Right.
And so not only are you risking the life of, okay, maybe this kid was threatening you, he was blackmailing you, but now this perfectly innocent. And by the way, I'm still looking at, I feel like he was innocent to an extent where he did not deserve anything like this at all. He didn't even deserve to be beat up.
He maybe deserved a consequence for the blackmail and the threats. But that consequence is not his life. Like that,
absolutely.
That would not be a death penalty situation.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Was he in the wrong for doing that? Yeah. Do I think that being led on by this like beautiful 45-year-old woman for 3 years where she's video chatting you every single day and you're like falling head over heels in love for 3 years? Like, am I excusing harassment and stalking and blackmail and threatening to release naked pictures? No. But am I saying that maybe she could have thought twice about entering into that relationship where she's, substantially older than him?
Right. And that's where we were saying, like, there's gray area in all of this.
Yeah.
But overall, all of those kids, I call them kids, but the 22 to 27-year-olds, they were all old enough to know how dangerous this was.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. We're not talking about high school students here.
Right.
So, who I also think would, if you're 17, I mean, it's, I don't know. So they swap drivers. May takes back over driving her Audi. Natasha takes back over driving the Seat. And at some point, I don't know when, but at some point, Mohammed pieced out. He left the group as soon as he could and went home. And the others continued on to Leicester. And once they got back to Leicester, they parked their cars in Sutton Place. And once they got back to Leicester, they parked their cars in Sutton Place, and all of them got out of the car to walk around. And Serene said they parked because both she and May were too upset to drive. And the group is seen on CCTV footage walking down the road, and they've kind of broken up into smaller groups at this point, and they're just walking casually together down the road. It's actually kind of wild to just watch them less than an hour, minutes after they just caused the death of 2 people. And Serene said everyone was just in shock by what had just happened. Within 3 hours of the crash, authorities had already found the cars via CCTV, and they had identified the owners as Natasha Akhtar and Mahek Bukhari at 4:43 a.m. So it did not take them long. Natasha was driving the Seat along the M6, which is a major interstate, while multiple police cars and even a helicopter were tracking her. I don't think she realized, because she stopped for gas in Birmingham and police boxed her in and she was arrested on suspicion of murder. And at this point, she's the only one in the car. Everybody else has been dropped off at home that was in the Seat. So Natasha's the first one to be arrested. At 8:17 a.m., police arrived at May and Ansreen's house. And initially, they were thinking that it was her brother who had been the one driving, and they put him under arrest. I think this might have something to do with some calls that Ansreen made that night, because her phone is registered in the brother's name or something like that.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I'm also just wondering if they're like, he's a teenage boy, this was probably him.
That's kind of what I was thinking when you said it.
But anyway, somehow they quickly realized they had the wrong person. I don't really know how they figured that out, but it happened really quickly. And they started questioning May and Ansreen in the living room. And this is all on body cam footage. And May and Ansreen are like in their PJs. May's in one of those like giant fuzzy hoodie things that goes down to your knees, you know, like a pink one. Mm-hmm. And they're both so calm here. May told police that she and her mom were home. They were like, "Where were you last night?" And she's like, "Well, at first we were here, and then we went to Nottingham." And she said, yeah, so that was her story, that they went to Nottingham that night. So the police brought both of them in for an interview where I didn't see Ansreen. I don't know anything about Ansreen's interview, to be honest. May's is wild. I think they both had this same story of going to Nottingham. I think they'd obviously worked out this story together. And May is just lying through her teeth about what happened. And she's so casual about the lies, but also like talking way too much and giving way too much details to like try to prove like this really happened to me. I'm really telling you what really happened to me because look at all the details I have. So,
right. And she's like, and then at 9:07 we went here, and then by 9:09 we were here. Like
exactly. So I guess she kind of realized like she can't say she didn't have anything to do with this because they tracked that car, so they know that the car was there. So she has to somehow explain why the car was there. So her story is that she and her mom had just been driving to Nottingham on their own, minding their business, when they saw that car chase happen. She said that she saw a blue Seat Leon come up on the right side of her. And she's like being very specific. I was on the left and it came up on the right. Like, and she's using her hands to show where he was coming. It's coming up on the right. And she's got these giant nails, you know. And she says it came up on the right and then it got over in front of me, but safely. She says, you know, it wasn't driving all crazy. And she says, you know, she's such a good driver. She's been driving like 4 to 5 years now. So she knows, you know, she's a very good driver. She says she knows to always keep a 3-second gap in between cars. And so she always does, always. Don't worry, officers. This is a very safe driver you've got on your roads. She knows what she's doing. She says she immediately braked so that they could get that 3 gap. She slowed down about 10 miles per hour. I'm not kidding. She's saying all of these details. I braked. I slowed down about 10 miles per hour. I'm like, a car just got in front of you. That's all you've told them so far. You saw a blue Seat Leon that got in front of you safely.
This sounds like me trying to explain to my parents how I backed into my neighbor's car. I'm like, yeah, but even though no one was in the car and it was parked where it's allowed to be parked in the street, it was not my fault.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And everything is normal. Everyone's going at normal speed. Like this, we're like 3 minutes into her story here and everything's normal and everybody's going at normal speed. Like until the evil silver Skoda came zooming out of nowhere, getting right in between her and the blue Seat. So she wasn't able to keep her 3-second gap anymore. She had to brake again. And she said she turned to her mom and she's like, what is this car trying to do? But her mom's like, it's just someone being reckless. Just keep your distance. It'll be all right. And don't you worry. She kept her distance. She just braked. She wanted to stay away from that Skoda. She's literally acting like she doesn't know any of these people. As if she can't.
I was going to say, who's in the silver Skoda? Is that Natasha's car?
No, that's Saqib and Hashim.
Okay, so literally her friends who she called to do this to protect her, which was a lie, she is now saying she's just throwing them under the bus, basically.
Well, so it was Hashim and Sadiq in the Skoda, in the silver Skoda, and then her friends are in the blue Seat that are driving very safely.
Oh, so she's blaming it on the victims.
Yes. She's saying they crashed. She's basically setting it up to say they caused the crash themselves. They crashed because they were driving so recklessly.
Oh my God.
But she's also acting like she doesn't know any of these people. Like she can't easily be connected to the people in the blue Seat. Like she knows Reis, they're friends at the very least. And her mom's having an affair with Sadiq in the Skoda. Saqib.
And apparently there's a bunch of evidence of it on his phone.
Yes. There's so much evidence. They talk nonstop. I mean, if there's not evidence of an affair, there's at least evidence of a years-long intense friendship.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she actually says, I don't know who any of those people are. Like, she says that in this interview. And I'm like, you're so stupid. Like, that can be proven. So anyway, May describes this whole scenario where this silver car is harassing this blue car on the road. And she keeps asking her mom, like, what is this silver car trying to do to this blue car? And she says that the silver car is behind the blue car and that it actually hit the blue car. Meaning that the Skoda that Saqib and Hashim were in actually ran into Natasha's blue car that Reis was driving, which is totally made up, and that can be proven. They have the cars. And you can see, I don't know that they can see that there's damage to the Skoda because of the fire, but they could see damage on the Seat that showed that it rammed the Skoda.
Oh my God.
But she says that's all she saw. She saw the silver car hit the blue car and then it swerved away and they exited the highway to get away from them. And that's all she saw. May, there are cameras everywhere. And it's almost embarrassing how confident she is in this interview, in her storytelling abilities. And it's also hilarious how the police don't ask her a single question. They don't interrupt her one time. They don't ask her for any clarification on where anybody was on this whole story. They just let her talk and talk and talk. Like, get your whole story out,
She's just holding
girl.
her own podcast episode for them. Like, she's like, sit down, buckle up, because I've got a lot of detail for you.
I'm going to tell you a story about a time that a blue car got in front of me safely on the road.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. By this time, the police had already talked to Saqib's family. They'd already put it together that he was having an affair with Ansreen. Like, there's so much digital evidence to all of this. In fact, it would almost become a problem how much evidence there was in this case. It was something like 200 hours of CCTV footage from 40 locations, 300 statements. Who even knows how many pages and pages and pages of messages and call histories? Like, May called Saqib that night in the car during the chase. Like, come on. Do you think they don't know that? They know you called him. And you're just saying this silver car came out of nowhere.
I don't understand how in this day and age people don't get that there are cameras everywhere. Like, there are cameras everywhere.
And not only that, but that your call history, that they know who you called.
Oh, my God.
It's crazy.
And especially, like, someone her age, too. I would get it if this person was 65 years old and they don't understand, like, the call records.
I might get it if it was Ansreen, you know, even 45 years old. Like, if you're not listening to true crime. But, like, a young girl who's a TikToker, you would think. Like, yeah, you would think. But I guess if you don't like pay attention, maybe you don't know what people have access to. Maybe you think that if you delete that message, then they'll never see it. And I'm like, he has a phone too, May.
Yeah, and he's not deleting the message.
No.
May.
So the police asked May and Ansreen for their phones during this interview, and May handed hers over. Not that she really had a choice, but she lied about the passcode to open it. So they couldn't open it. And Ansreen had already gone through her phone and deleted anything connected to Saqib. But again, hello, Saqib is dead. You think the police aren't going through his phone? Through his iCloud account? Where they found all sorts of pictures of them looking very coupley on like at least 11 separate occasions. And at first she tried to say they'd only met up twice, and then it was like 5 to 6 times. But these pictures looked like they'd met at least 11 separate times.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated weed whacker guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Oh my God.
And so the police quickly learned the identities of the other occupants of the car, all 8 of them, and they learned that Rakan and Ra'is were the ones driving. There were phone logs showing that they were calling each other nonstop that whole night of the crash. I mean, it all paints a very clear picture of exactly what happened. But all of them deny being responsible for the crash. That didn't matter, though, because all 8 of them were arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. In the end, they decided to drop the charges against Mohammed, who was like the last one that was called like an hour before the meeting. He was in his PJs. He shows up, and then he was also the first one to leave. And so it seemed like out of all of them, he had the least amount of culpability. And I think they really, and also he happened to have been in the Audi. And I think they really, really wanted a witness that was in the Audi. And the other 3, one was driving, one was May, one was Ansreen. So I think they really wanted Mohammed to testify about what went on in that car. So they dropped the charges against him. And he did end up being like the star witness. So I think there was maybe a deal there. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about a deal, but maybe he just agreed to do it because maybe he really didn't know what was going on and he thought it was all really messed up. Maybe that is it.
And then he was probably really pissed that they brought him into something like this.
I would be so angry.
Oh, I would be tattletaling all over the place.
Oh.
First of all, though, I would have called 999 immediately.
Yeah.
I would have called it on them before the accident while we're in the car chasing them. Like, someone come help me get out of this car.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have too, especially if I didn't have a reason to like fear that person. I think maybe I don't know. But yeah, so he was their star witness. And yeah, he did not call emergency services or try to get them any help. Even after he left the group, even after he'd gone home, he still didn't call 999. So I don't think he's totally innocent in this. Like, I don't think any of them are. But it definitely seems like he has the least amount of culpability, and they wanted to know what happened in that car. So There were actually 2 trials because the first one ended in a mistrial. And I can just imagine how difficult this trial would have been to manage because we're talking about 7 defendants. I believe they all had their own defense attorneys. I'm not totally sure on that, but I think there were a lot of defense attorneys. They're all telling different stories about what happened that night. They're all trying to minimize their own involvement as much as humanly possible. And there was plenty of evidence to show that May, Ansreen, Rakan, and Reyes, like their involvement and what they knew. There were text messages, there were phone calls between them. Like there was clearly a plan of some sort between them. But the other 3, Natasha, Amir, and Sanaf, there wasn't a whole lot to say what they knew going into this and what they didn't. And the prosecution tried to say that they had brought weapons with them. They found a wheel brace in the trunk of the Audi with Reese's fingerprints on the cover. And there was a screwdriver-like tool found in the Seat Leon under the driver's seat. So the prosecution argued that they'd come prepared with weapons, but they never really could prove that those items had been brought intentionally as a weapon or if they just happened to be in the cars. And they all vehemently denied having any knowledge of even meeting up with Saqib, much less killing him. They didn't even know him. And I'm talking about like the 3, Sanaf, Amir, and Natasha. They didn't even know Saqib. They didn't know anything about him. And there was no evidence that they'd been promised anything in return for their participation in this whole thing. So I don't know. I go back and forth on them. I think it's wrong that they didn't call 999 for sure or try to get any help. But I don't think they knew that was going to happen. And I don't think they had any decision making. Like, I don't think any of this was like I don't think they're in there like, yeah, go, egging him on.
Right. I feel like there doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence that these 3 at least were complicit in a purposeful plot to murder somebody.
Yeah. And
like I would almost see manslaughter, but murder seems like a stretch for these 3 in particular.
I agree. And Natasha's like, I had a crush on Reyes. I couldn't tell him to slow down. He'd think I was lame. Like that was kind of like where her head is at. So I'm like, this girl doesn't like, she's thinking about the crush she has. Like,
which honestly, like in hindsight, it sounds silly, but like I remember being young and I remember one time I was with guy friends in high school and they were throwing eggs out the car windows. And like the whole time I was scared. I wasn't a troublemaker and I was like so uncomfortable. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to get back to the house. I didn't want to get in trouble. I was like, what if it lands on someone's windshield and they can't see type of thing?
Yeah.
Nothing bad happened besides the eggs. But I didn't say anything because it was like you want to be cool. You don't want to be the Debbie Downer. You want to just go along with what's going on. But you have to think about these consequences.
Well, and you kind of hope that by like 22, 23, 24, however old they were, she was like around there, that you'd be over that. But like, you're kind of not.
Yeah,
like,
that is old. I was like 15.
Yeah, but I still think at like 24, you're still kind of an idiot, especially with boys, you know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they wanted that to happen. I don't think they didn't they didn't know Saqib. They didn't have any dog in that fight at all. There was nothing in it for them. I think they were just in the car.
Right.
Reyes is the one driving like a maniac. Rakan is right behind him in the Audi with May, watch what I'm going to do to you, Bukhari, you know. But the other 3 and Mohammed, yeah. So the defense tried to portray Hashim, Saqib's friend, as a reckless driver. They're obviously trying to say, like, we didn't cause the crash. He drove recklessly and he caused the crash. They said he was high on weed. He did test positive for cannabis. But they're just really dragging his whole character through the mud to try and say that he caused the crash himself. It was a lot easier to drag Saqib's character through the mud, though, which they also did. They had a woman testify that said that Saqib had done the same thing to her that he'd done to Ansreen. Like when she'd told him that she wasn't interested in him, he started threatening her, becoming really aggressive. He called her like 20 times a day, threatened to smash her car, go to her house. The woman had reported his behavior to police 3 times. And the defense also presented the threatening text that Saqib had sent to Ansreen. But here's my thing. I am not saying that Ansreen didn't have a right to be afraid of him. That I'm saying I think she's lying about being afraid of him or anything. But I will say that these threats all really seem to be contained to exposing their affair. Not like threatening to kill her, not threatening like to hurt her in any way. It just seems to me like she wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of the secret getting out. Like that's what she was afraid of.
She was afraid of being embarrassed, it sounds like, of her life blowing up, her marriage blowing up.
Yes.
But and I agree with you. You know, it sounds like what he was doing was scary and it was wrong, especially he's doing it to multiple women.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like there was some aggressiveness behind it a little bit.
He's like cursing, he's yelling,
he's
he's like, you know, and I think that can definitely be scary. And you're like, this guy is unhinged. Like, I don't know what he's capable of.
Absolutely. But that doesn't give you the right to end someone's life.
No.
And really, if you're scared, you should have done what the other woman did and you contact police. And I understand that sounded like it didn't work out very well because she had to contact them 3 times. But
I could also understand the choice to take matters into your own hands if you've tried to get help and it didn't work. Instead of like,
if you feel like your life's in danger.
This is like your first, and it's to get the phone. It's not to protect yourself physically.
Right.
It's to get his phone so that the pictures don't get out.
Right.
What she needed was anonymous, not Rakan and Reyes. She needed someone to hack his phone and his iCloud account and delete him.
Yes.
And now it's out. It's we're talking about it on this podcast right now, like about your affair. Like your secret's out. And
now the whole world knows instead of just like probably your town or something that would have found out. Like
all because you decided that keeping your secret was more important than anyone's safety. Anyone's safety. I mean, anything could have happened that night. They're driving so dangerously. Anybody could have crashed their car. They're banging into him. They're ramming into his car. They could have gotten hurt from that.
Yeah.
Driving 80 to 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, that's insane.
And her actions also led to the death of Hashim, who did nothing wrong except give his friend a ride when he said he needed one, who was always willing to help anyone out, according to his friends and family. And these are young kids, 20, 21 years old. They were never able to really prove how much of this was actually planned. It seems like the car chase was a last-minute decision, but there is little doubt that their intent was to run them off the road. And again, they're going 80 to 100. At that speed, also, I appreciate every single article I read had this in miles per hour. I don't know why, but they all did instead of kilometers.
Because they know that Americans, we can't figure out kilometers per hour.
We cannot. But at that speed, trying to run someone off the road, you are trying to kill them. And the fact is, they could have all been killed that night driving like that. The jury deliberated for more than 28 hours, probably because they're having to come to 7 verdicts. And I think some are easier to come to than others, probably. In the end, they did determine that Amir, Natasha, and Sanaf, the ones who were in the car but not driving, and are also not May or Ansreen, were not guilty of murder, but that they were guilty of manslaughter. The others, May, Ansreen, Reyes, and Rakan, were all found guilty of murder, 2 counts of murder.
Okay, I feel like that was the same conclusion we came to.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think so. I think that is fair. I think the sentencing, I'm interested to hear what you think about the sentencing, actually. At sentencing, the judge began his remarks by saying this case was one of love, obsession, and extortion, and that it was cold-blooded murder. He said, TikTok and Instagram lie at the heart of this case. You, Mehek Bukhari, being an influencer on both platforms, that's why you dropped out of university. Had you not done so, you would have been a graduate with your whole life in front of you. Like, I think he's basically saying, if not for TikTok, none of this would be happening.
That judge is sounding a little judgy, but okay.
The judge told Ansarine, you are the grown-up adult in the group of defendants, and you should have behaved like one. He said there were so many instances you could have put a stop to this unfolding tragedy, but you allowed events to escalate. He said,
okay,
at every turn, you made the wrong decision. And he told her she put matters into the hands of her daughter and, quote, what a calamitous decision that was.
Okay, mic drop. I concur with that part of it.
I do too. Also, I love the word calamitous.
That was amazing.
I feel like I need to add that to my daily.
I know, and it rolled off the tongue for you.
Thank you so much. May and Rais were both sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 31 years that they would have to serve. And Serene and Rakan were also sentenced to life with a minimum of 26 years. Natasha got 11 years for her manslaughter conviction, and Amir and Sanaf got 14 years. I don't know why there's a discrepancy between the two, but what do you think of that 11 years for being in a car?
I'm honestly surprised by that.
Yeah.
I really am. And I know that things work a little bit differently, US versus UK. But I mean, we have covered cases where murderers have gotten less time than that.
Like crime of passion. To me, it's the biggest bunch of bullshit. I hate it so much. But I've heard of cases where they decapitated their wives and got 7 years, or 14 years. I
mean, 11 years, because here's the thing is, let's talk about Natasha, just because they have different sentences. If she was telling the truth and everything she said was true, I didn't know this was going to happen. I got in this car. I was kind of scared, but I didn't say anything. And then it happened. Then I'm terrified and I don't know what to do. So I don't say anything. And then
And she didn't have a lot of time.
Caught.
She was arrested within 3 hours of the crash. So it's not like she could even go home and think about it for a second.
Right. So in that, if that is all true, then my heart actually does break for this girl and for the other two as well, because if what they're saying is true and they did not know, that is,
and there's just no evidence that they did. There's just no evidence that they did know. And I think that's my thing is it's like, there's a chance that she did. There's a chance that she was a part of this. There's a chance she was sitting at that lounge playing Monopoly, talking about killing this guy. But there's no evidence that that's what was happening.
Right. I have a lot of reasonable doubt right now that they knew what was going to happen. And also, if they weren't in control of the car, who knows? And obviously, it doesn't sound like this was their defense, but maybe they were screaming, stop, stop, stop. What are you doing? Stop. It doesn't sound like it because they didn't really claim that. But you don't know what happened in that car, and they didn't have control. And I just see so much reasonable doubt.
Yeah. I really would love to know what was going on in that Seat. Natasha said she wasn't telling him to slow down because she liked him and she wanted him to like her. And he didn't really like her. So she's really trying. She's like, I'm going to marry this guy. She wanted to be a defense attorney.
Oh, my God.
I know. And then Amir and Sanaf with 14 years. Some people do say that these sentences were too harsh. I think especially those 3 manslaughter convictions. And I'm thinking especially considering Mohammed was also in the car, same as the others, and he walked away with no charges. I don't know.
Right.
I think because they just can't prove what they knew before they got in that car.
I agree with you. I think that sounds really heavy for what it sounds like happened here.
I know, 11 years because she got in a car. I don't know. I do know that her crush, Rais, is a convicted rapist. Before this trial, earlier that year, he was put on trial. So he was already tried and convicted when this trial came around, but not before the crash. He was convicted of the rape of a 17-year-old girl. That happened in 2020. So the rape happened 2 years before the crash. And then after the crash, he was put on trial. And then he was on trial for murder. And he was convicted of it. So not a good guy at all. So Natasha needs better.
How much time did he get for that rape? Do we know?
I don't know that.
Not 11 years. I know that for sure.
Oh, that really does make me wonder what he got. Ooh, I need to look that up. Let me see if I can even find it. It was hard to find their sentences for murder, so.
Yeah.
Oh. So the jury, he was 10 years. 10.
10 what?
10 years.
For the rape?
For the rape.
So wait, how was he? He must have just not gone to jail yet? Or he got convicted of the rape after being convicted of the other?
No, he was convicted. He went on trial. He was already in prison when he was put on trial for murder.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So he's tried, convicted, sentenced to 10 years. And I wonder, because he got the 31 minimum for the murder, I wonder if they're going to make him serve the 10 years plus the 31. I don't know. But anyways, that is the story of the murders of Saqib Hussain and Hashim Ijazuddin.
That, I hate to call it the obviously horrific story. But one of the things, like when Emily and I were talking about starting our podcast, was I feel like there's a lot of different purposes of telling true crime stories. The obvious ones are, an unsolved case that needs media attention, or a case where there hasn't been justice and they need some outcry from the public. But I also find a lot of purpose in telling the solved cases and the story behind the mental psyche and what happened, because I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from those about how to protect ourselves, how to protect our loved ones. And I feel like this story is such a good example of that, because there's a lot of ways that multiple different people on every side of this made the wrong choices that ended in absolute catastrophe. And it's like, you have to understand that sometimes, the obvious consequences to doing something wrong seem to be very equal in consequence to what you've done wrong. But sometimes the consequences can just be so huge. And that's why you don't go to jump someone in a parking lot in the middle of the night. And it's just heartbreaking all around.
And why you should be very careful about who you spend your time with.
Absolutely.
This Mother's Day, show the moms in your life just how much they mean to you with a stunning bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. For almost 50 years, 1-800-Flowers has set the standard for high-quality bouquets. Right now, order early from 1-800-Flowers and save up to 40% on gorgeous bouquets and one-of-a-kind arrangements guaranteed to make her day. Save up to 40% today at 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify. The official florist of Mother's Day.
This episode is brought to you by SelectQuote. Life insurance can have a huge impact on our family's future. With SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is simple and affordable. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents will tailor your experience to find a life insurance policy for your needs in as little as 15 minutes. And SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for many conditions. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Go to selectquote.com/SpotifyPod today to get started.
Absolutely. And who you trust, because if these kids really didn't know what was going to happen and they just thought this guy that they were going with was their friend and he puts them in this situation, it's like, you have to be so careful about who you're hanging out with, and because it could ruin your life. Being around the wrong people, and not just, because you go to prison or something, but in a lot of different ways. Being around the wrong people can ruin your life.
Yeah. 100%. Well, Kelsey, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm living my podcasting dream right now.
Well, I'm so glad I could make your dreams come true. I've never been able to say that to somebody.
and you can tell all your fifth graders tomorrow, do you go by Miss Kristen or Miss
Williams
by your last? Okay. Miss Williams made dreams come true yesterday.
You should know that.
You don't even know.
Like, what? I'm like, I can't tell you, but I'm famous adjacent.
Yes, you are. You are famous in my household. I'll tell you that. My whole family knows who you are because I told them we were doing this, so they all listen to your podcast and everything.
Yay!
Yeah,
well, I can't wait for them to
loved it
listen to
too.
this one.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, the whole time that you were, so in the beginning, you were starting with some of the statistics about all of the CCTV in London or in the UK in general. And we were kind of talking about, I guess, just for the listeners, before Chris and I recorded, she was saying this case kind of reminds her of one of the cases we covered on our podcast, which was the murder of Dan Markel. And like this one, just a warning, if you go to check it out, I couldn't stop myself. There's 4 episodes on it. Like I just yapped and yapped. But it is such an interesting case. And it's similar in that there are so many people involved in this murder. And they're all telling different stories and all of that. But really the one, once you got into it, that this reminded me of was, excuse me, we covered the case of Sarah Everard. And it was early on. I think it's like episodes 4 and 5. But Sarah Everard was a 33-year-old girl living in London. And she was actually, this happened like during a COVID lockdown, a active London Metropolitan Police officer named Wayne Couzens like stopped her on the side of the street and told her that he was arresting her for violating COVID lockdown procedure. Like she wasn't supposed to be out past a certain time. And he had a rental car that he had, planned on renting, handcuffs her, put her in the rental car, and then he took her, drove her 3 hours away and brutally murdered her. And it's so crazy because we went over some of the statistics with the CCTV in London because it is so heavily, I think it's the most heavily surveilled city in the world, actually, London. And here's the thing is this guy was literally a police officer.
He knows that.
He knows that. And just like you were saying, they have the cameras that track the license plates. So they easily find footage of her walking home that night, of her standing on the side of the road talking to him in front of his car with the license plate. And yes, it was a rental car, but easily they pull it up and see that he rented it.
Yes.
It's insane, but this is such a crazy story because for years before this, he had been indecently exposing himself, like driving around in this car. And there's all this CCTV footage, of him at McDonald's exposing himself in the drive-thru. And he's in his car that they can trace back to him because they have the footage. These people call the police, but somehow it never got connected to him until after Sarah Everard was murdered by him. And he's a police officer. So there's some speculation that maybe this had been covered up internally. Because you can watch all this footage online. It's crazy. But moral of the story is, and I guess maybe I shouldn't give advice to criminals, but you're being recorded everywhere. So don't even try and get away with the crime.
Especially there.
Because it's really hard these days.
I will never understand trying to cover up for somebody showing their junk in a McDonald's drive-thru. Like, I just imagine the conversation. Like, what was this guy's name?
Wayne Couzens.
Like, Wayne, why'd you do that? Like, what are they saying? Like,
right.
Wayne,
and then,
cut it out. Cut that out, Wayne. Like, what?
And this is one of the big themes in the story of what happened to Sarah is that there were so many times that he had done something like that. And there were also a ton of rapes that he was accused of. And I say accused because he was not convicted, so I cannot say he committed them. But there was a pattern of very predatory behavior. And one of the things that like the London Met comes out after and talks about is, really what they need to do. People need to understand that indecent exposure, a lot of the times people look at it as like a victimless crime because you're not actually touching someone else, but it snowballs into like very predatory sexual behaviors and sexual deviancy. So,
well, and also you don't have to be touched to feel violated.
Absolutely. It's violating in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But it's very often and it's wrong in and of, they should be punished for that no matter what. But it's also very often a red flag, a precursor to people who end up raping others or murdering others. But like I said, sometimes it just seems like it was never taken seriously in his case. And it's horrific.
Oh my God.
It's a horrific story, honestly.
I'm going to have to go listen to that episode. You said it was like 4 or 5 around there?
I think it's definitely 2 parts. I believe it's episodes 4 and 5, if I'm remembering correctly. It was like very soon in the beginning of the podcast, so forgive us.
I know. I was like,
perfect.
Somebody was like, recommend me like some of your best episodes, and I was like, okay. And I'm looking back, and I'm like, like all of our first 10 episodes are cases that I like wanted. Like I loved covering them. Apart from the Scott Peterson case, because that one we did because it was like a new thing. Anyways. The other ones, like the Lululemon murder and like Anna Delvey. And I'm like, we did these with bad audio. We were still recording on Zoom. And those are like the best stories.
Know. That's how I feel. Like the first, like the first like 10 episodes or so were the cases that when I decided I wanted to start a true crime podcast, I'm like, these are the ones I want to do.
Yes.
And I don't think our audio's not horrible. Emily's a little bit quiet, but the audio overall was like not too bad.
Yeah.
I think for just starting out. But for me, it's like I feel like I sound awkward. Now other people, now I'm going to discourage people from listening to it. It's great. We're perfect. But honestly, we still get people to this day like commenting that like the Sarah Everard episodes are their favorite episodes because it's just such an insane story, and it happened so recently. I believe it was 2021, and it's one of those things where you're like, this can't happen.
2021.
Nowadays.
He's trying to arrest her for COVID protocols.
Yes, because London was like on a lockdown at the time.
Still. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just horrific, and it exposes all of this other corruption in the London Met Police. Lots of bad males in there at the time. They say they're working on it, so we'll see. But yeah, scary.
I mean, you hope that when this stuff is exposed, it makes them actually take it seriously. But
yeah,
who knows? Okay.
Well, thank you so much again for having me on.
Oh my gosh.
If anyone wants to check us out, I know we are going to do one more episode together where I'm going to tell Kristen a story. So I really hope you guys check it out.
Yes.
But if you want to check out our feed, you can get it wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's A Trial by Podcast. The A is very important.
Yes.
Because I learned there's another podcast that is like a court for attorneys or something like that. That's called Trial by Podcast. But we are A Trial by Podcast, and you'll know you found us when you see our image. It's a Renaissance woman wearing headphones and holding a gavel.
I love your logo.
Thank you so much. I love your guys's too.
Thank you. I'm going to crochet it. I decided that's going to be my next project.
Oh my God, you have to do like a needlepoint pillow with it would be perfect.
It's going to be like a big crochet tapestry. Mogab's like, how big we talking? Like, and I'm like, 4 feet. So I made it smaller because I was like, that seems crazy. So I've made it like 3 feet now, but I haven't started it.
Oh my
I bought
God,
the yarn,
I love it. I'm sure you'll post it too.
I
but
will.
Either way, I can't wait to see a picture of that.
I'll send
That's
it
crazy.
to you. I'm excited. Well, thank you all for listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join us in our Facebook discussion group, the True Crime Creepers discussion group. We'd love to have you in there. If you want to follow us on Instagram, we are at CreepersPod. We have lots of bonus content over on our Patreon at patreon.com/truecrimecreepers. And definitely make sure you follow the show so you will know exactly when our next episode drops, when next time Kelsey tells me the wild story.
Bye, peeps and creeps. Yes. Now, if you guys love the pod, make sure you're following us wherever you're listening so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
And while you're at it, we'd be forever in your debt if you had left us a 5-star rating.
For more content from us, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Both are at A Trial by Podcast.
You can also follow us on our Facebook and join our Facebook group.
You can shop our merch by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting our website, atrialbypodcast.com.
A Trial by Podcast is a fully independent podcast. If you'd like to help support us, you can do so by donating through the link in our show notes.
The site we use for this is called Buy Me a Coffee, but don't worry, your donations will never be used for coffee or frivolous things, only for expenses related to running and growing the podcast. So thank you guys for your support.
Thank y'all. Huzzah.
Huzzah.